have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. I am not the victim of the world I see, because I have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm a forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, Miracle Willie, and we're ready for Lesson 32 in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace publication here on Thursday, February the 1st of 2024. And as I sang in the song, I have invented the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see was yesterday's. And we're not a victim because we make everything that we see. Everything is our own picture of what's going on inside. The outer world we're learning is a pictorial representation of our inner world. And it's with our thoughts, our inner world, that we need to work with. I've invented the world I see. Today we are continuing to develop the theme of cause and effect. You are not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. You can give it up as easily as you made it up. You will see it or not see it as you wish. While you want it, you will see it. When you no longer want it, it will not be there for you to see. Okay, well, we'll read the rest of that lesson here. Let's go look at our text reading first. And we're in Chapter 4, The Illusions of the Ego. And we're ready for Roman numeral 6, The Rewards of God. Love your neighbor as yourself is the way I like to think of this section. Let's read it here. The ego does not recognize the real source of threat. And if you associate yourself with the ego, you do not understand the situation as it is. And that word threat is in quotes because from the ego's perspective, there's threat, but from the spirit's perspective, there's no threat. Only your allegiance to it gives the ego any power over you. I have spoken of the ego as if it were a separate thing acting on its own. This was necessary to persuade you that you cannot dismiss it lightly and must realize how much of your thinking is ego-directed. We cannot safely let it go at that, however, or you will regard yourself as necessarily conflicted as long as you are here, or as long as you believe that you are here. Remember, it's our beliefs we're working with, our value systems, our inner thoughts and feelings, our wants and wishes. The ego is nothing more than a part of your belief about yourself. Your other life has continued without interruption and has been and always will be totally unaffected by your attempts to disassociate it, your other life, your reality. Paragraph 2. In learning to escape from illusions, your debt to your brother is something you must never forget. Okay, now he's talking about something that was talked about in Romans chapter 13, verse 8, where it's, at least that's a biblical reference to something that says the same thing. And then there it says, owe no one anything except to love one another, and thus fulfill the law. Remember, Jesus said the whole law was fulfilled in these two commandments. Love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So here he's saying, in learning to escape from illusions, your debt to your brother is something you must never forget. In your escaping from illusions, your debt to your brother is something. You're owing them love. It is the same debt you owe to me, says Jesus. Whenever you act egotistically toward another, you're throwing away the graciousness of your indebtedness and the holy perception it would produce. The term, in quotes, holy, can be used here because as you learn how much you are indebted to the whole sonship, which includes me, you come as close to knowledge as perception can. Wow, seeing the love we owe each other brings us very close to knowledge in the world of perception. The closest we can even get, he says. Love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus had a reason to tell us to do that. The gap is then so small that knowledge can easily flow across it and obliterate it forever. When you love your neighbor, you can move right on from the world of perception right into the world of knowing. Paragraph 3. You have very little trust in me as yet, but it will increase as you turn more and more often to me instead of to your ego for guidance. That's nice to know. The results will convince you increasingly that this choice is the only sane one you can make. And I put over there scientific proof under that sentence. The results will convince you increasingly. You know, if anybody who really tries it and honestly tries to live by the principles talked about in this book, will get the proof to show that it's the only way that works. Or it is a way that works. Maybe I should say it that way. I don't want to get too... When I talk about the only way that works, love your neighbor is the only way that works. Love God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Same thing, really. But that's the only thing that will work. But now whether or not using Course in Miracles to arrive at that understanding, or Native American practices, or yogic practices, or Buddhist practices, that there's lots of different ways. That's why we're not looking at the Course in Miracles. We're looking at a Course in Miracles. The result will convince you increasingly that this choice is the only sane one you can make, to love your neighbor as yourself. No one who learns from experience that one choice brings peace and joy while another brings chaos and disaster needs additional convincing. Learning through rewards is more effective than learning through pain, because pain is an ego illusion and can never induce more than a temporary effect. The rewards of God, however, are immediately recognized as eternal. Since this recognition is made by you and not the ego, the recognition itself establishes that you and your ego cannot be identical. You may believe that you have already accepted this difference, but you are by no means convinced as yet. The fact that you believe you must escape from the ego shows this, but you cannot escape from the ego by humbling it, or controlling it, or punishing it. Paragraph 4. The ego and the spirit do not know each other. The separated mind cannot maintain the separation except by dissociating. Again on that sentence, 2 sentences. The ego and the spirit do not know each other. The separated mind cannot maintain the separation except by dissociating. Having done this, it denies all truly natural impulses, not because the ego is a separate thing, but because you want to believe that you're a separate thing, that you're something separate from your brother and God. The ego is a device for maintaining this belief in separation, but it is still only your decision to use the device that enables it to endure. You can't blame it on the ego, can't blame it on the devil. You're the one who chooses. I say that devil kind of jokingly. Devil made me do it concept, and the ego made me do it. Well, it's only your breathing life into it that made you do it. It's just a way of thinking. You're the thinker. Paragraph 5. How can you teach someone the value of something he has deliberately thrown away? Good question, isn't it? How can you teach someone the value of something he has deliberately thrown away. He must have thrown it away because he did not value it. You can only show him how miserable he is without it and slowly bring it nearer so he can learn how his misery lessens as he approaches it. This teaches him to associate his misery with its absence and the opposite of misery with its presence. It gradually becomes desirable as he changes his mind about its worth. I am teaching you to associate misery with the ego and joy with the spirit. You have taught yourself the opposite. You are still free to choose, but can you really want the rewards of the ego in the presence of the rewards of God? That's an obvious question. So as we're trying to bring our brothers and sisters to this understanding of love your neighbor as yourself, we just show them that as you follow surrender, that's the word I like to think of, surrender into God, surrender into love. And when you learn to follow that, what happens is that you get more joy because you're not following the ego, which has to use judgment and the loss of joy in order to maintain its existence. Remember, it only maintains its existence with illusions or mirrors, as he called them. Paragraph 6. My trust in you is greater than yours in me at the moment, but it will not always be that way. Your mission is very simple. You are asked to live so as to demonstrate that you are not an ego, and I do not choose God's channels wrongly. The Holy One shares my trust and accepts my atonement decisions because my will is never out of accord with His. I have said before that I am in charge of the atonement. This is only because I completed my part in it as a man and can now complete it through others. My chosen channels cannot fail. My chosen channels, which are us, cannot fail. Because I will lend them my strength as long as theirs is wanting. Paragraph 7. I will go with you to the Holy One, and through my perception, He can bridge the little gap. Your gratitude to your brother is the only gift I want. Now, love your neighbor as yourself. Gratitude, being grateful in all situations for what your brother offers you. This is what we need to learn to do. And he's saying that your gratitude to your brother is the only gift that I want, is what Jesus is saying. I will bring it to God for you, knowing that to know your brother is to know God. Again, your gratitude to your brother is the only gift I want. I will bring it to God for you, knowing that to know your brother is to know God. Wow, you want to know God? Know your brother. If you are grateful to your brother, you are grateful to God for what He created. Through your gratitude, you come to know your brother, and one moment of real recognition makes everyone your brother, because each of them is of your Father. Love does not conquer all things, but it does set all things right. There's kind of a saying that goes around, love conquers all things. And what he's saying is that love doesn't conquer all things, but it does make all things right. To conquer means there's strife or conflict, and there has to be a victory. And that's not the way of Course in Miracles. It's not the way of the kingdom of heaven. Love does not conquer all things, but it does set all things right. Because you are the kingdom of God, I can lead you back to your own creations. You do not recognize them now, but what has been dissociated is still there. In the last paragraph, 8, as you come closer to a brother, you approach me, says Jesus. As you come closer to a brother, you approach me, or think of it as God. As you come closer to a brother, you approach me. And as you withdraw from him, I become distant to you. Salvation is a collaborative venture. It cannot be undertaken successfully by those who disengage themselves from the sonship, because they are disengaging themselves from me. Very important idea. Salvation is a collaborative venture. It cannot be undertaken successfully by those who disengage themselves from the sonship, because they are disengaging themselves from me. God will come to you only as you will give him to your brothers. Learn first of them, and you will be ready to hear God. This is because the function of love is one. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like I said, that's what I think that section, that's what I think of it as being called. Okay, before we go to I have invented the world and read that, what's going on around the world? Well, let's see. It's Candy Making Day, Car Insurance Day, CBD Day. That's probably something that I should have looked up and kind of familiarized, but we didn't have enough time today. So I would encourage you to look into the effects on the human body for CBD. You may find that it's quite helpful for many things, anxiety and pain. Change your password day, dark chocolate day, decorating with candy day. And if you're going to eat chocolate, I'd encourage you to eat dark chocolate. Less sugar in the dark chocolate, which is beneficial. Decorating with candy day, G.I. Joe day, Hula in the Coola day, which I didn't look that one up, International Day of Black Women in the Arts Day, National Baked Alaska Day, National Freedom Day, and of course that should be every day as we're studying Course in Miracles and we're learning to look through the eyes of the Christ, or the true vision, instead of the ego. That gives us true freedom. National Freedom Day, National Get Up Day, National Sweater Day, that's a Canadian holiday, Robinson Crusoe Day, and that was written by Daniel Defoe in 1719, been around a while. Serpent Day, familiarize yourself with snakes. Spunky Old Broads Day, and World Hijab Day, a hijab, the headscarves of the Arabic women wear, and O'Rourke Fig, a Ficus carica, and let's see what it says in Edible Landscaping about the O'Rourke Fig, a new introduction from LSU, Louisiana State University, with Celeste in its heritage. O'Rourke flesh is golden with red near center of the fruit when soft ripe. Ripens before Celeste. Fruit hangs down when fully ripe. O'Rourke's is more resistant to defoliation caused by fig leaf rust. Ripens its fruits early and continues late into the fall. Zone 6 through 9. Space 10-foot circles. And in Permaculture for Beginners by Carrie Mitchell, she talks about, at the very last of chapter 1, says something to the effect, strive to manage a balanced ecosystem that keeps pests to a minimum and allows the garden to run without much care. Like on autopilot. And our word we're going to use for peace is from the Ethiopian language of afar, and it's Salaamata. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So we're Salaamata. Peace be to you. And lesson 32 of I've Invented the World I See. Today we're continuing to develop the theme of cause and effect. You are not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. You can give it up as easily as you made it up. You will see it or not see it as you wish. While you want it, you will see it. When you no longer want it, it will not be there for you to see. We make up the world we see, and we can unmake up the world or make it into something else, because we're the inventors. We want to become creators. We want to do everything in harmony with God instead of dissociated from divine being. The idea for today, like the preceding ones, applies to your inner and outer worlds. which are actually the same. However, since you see them as different, the practice periods for today will again include two phases, one involving the world you see outside you, and the other, the world you see in your mind. In today's exercises, try to introduce the thought that both are in your own imagination. Can you kind of start accepting that? The power of the mind, the power of imagination? Oh, the power of imagination. I just can't even hardly... He says that no one understands it all the time, and no one completely understands it maybe, but the incredible power of the mind. So he says in today's exercises, try to introduce the thought that both the inner world and the outer world are in your own imagination. And what maybe kind of an example of that is like, I see a tree, and in my I'm looking at a walnut tree over here, or let's say that cedar tree back there. You can see. I'm looking at that cedar tree, and to me that means something. It means and all the different things it means. Like, I hadn't really thought about how I would define this, but I'm trying to give you kind of a sense of how imagination plays into the way that I see that cedar tree. It blocks the wind. It needs a certain amount of moisture, so you're not going to find that particular species of tree in the desert. So that kind of indicates where I'm living. And birds eat it. I'm imagining that lots of birds can eat from that tree. Just a whole lot of different things. It makes wood that is rot resistant, makes nice posts, makes nice cedar chests that moths avoid the smell. What else? Just all these things that come to play are making the world we see. I don't know that was the best example. I'm trying to give you kind of a feeling about how you are the driver of the world you see, inner and outer. Again, we will begin the practice periods for the morning and the evening by repeating the idea for today 2 or 3 times while looking around you at the world you see as outside yourself. Then close your eyes and look around your inner world. Close your eyes and look around your inner world. You ever thought about that? Closing your mind and look around. Hey, what's going on here in my inner world? Well, let's do that. Let's look around in our inner world. Try to treat them both as equally as possible. Repeat the idea for today unhurriedly, as often as you wish, as you watch the images your imagination presents to your awareness. So there's going to be a part of your mind that you're going to say, oh yeah, my mind is thinking this. And then this other part of your mind that's a silent witness, maybe not completely silent, because it is going to be saying, I have invented the world I see. So you're going to hang out with that realization, and then let the mind, you may even get caught up in the thoughts and you probably will. But at some point, since you're sitting still and quiet and you're trying to do your lesson, you're going to now step back and say, oh, that's what I was thinking about this or that. And then look at the next thought. Let it go and let the mind look at what else is going on. And each time, tell yourself, I've invented the world I see. Take some responsibility for your part in this, because that's what's going to ultimately free us from pain. Repeat the idea for today unhurriedly, as often as you wish, as you watch the images your imagination presents to your awareness. For the 2 longer practice periods, 3 to 5 minutes are recommended, with not less than 3 required. So at least 3 minutes, but he says that you can spend 5. More than 5 minutes can be utilized if you find the exercises restful. And if you're like really enjoying it and you feel really good about it and really feel at ease and restful, you can take as long as you want the way I'm reading this. So at this point, you second and third time year students that like a little longer meditation than 5 minutes, have at it. More than 5 can be utilized if you find the exercises restful. To facilitate this, select a time when few distractions are anticipated and when you yourself feel reasonably ready. These exercises are also to be continued during the day as often as possible. The shorter applications consist of repeating the idea slowly as you survey either your inner or outer world. It does not matter which you choose. Look at either what you're thinking about or what you can see around you, and tell yourself, I've invented the world I see. And just do that throughout the day. The idea for today should also be applied immediately to any situation that may distress you. Apply the idea by telling yourself, I have invented this situation as I see it. So if something comes up that bothers you, step back the same way and say, I've invented this situation. I've invented this situation as I see it. So we'll do a little quick one right now, a little quick meditation. Maybe not spend full 3 minutes, but you can, after you turn off the video, you can just sit in the quiet and continue on. I have invented the world I see. 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 I am not a victim of the world I see, because I have invented the world I see. Oh, the power of the mind. I have invented the world I see. Now just look around and tell yourself, I have invented the world I see. I have invented the world I see. Then close your eyes and continue. I have invented the world I see. Salaamata, our Ethiopian word for peace. Continue on in your quiet meditation and look inside your mind of what you've invented. Look around in your mind today and outer world. And be sure to keep in mind that it's your imagination that we're working with. And you can imagine beauty as much as you can imagine its opposite. So let's imagine, let's pray that thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Beauty, the world of God, of love. I have invented the world I see. Salaamata.